Imagine the morning of your only son's wedding. You spent a year planning every tiny detail, and then you catch your husband of 25 years making out with your son's fiancée on the living room sofa. You're about to explode and ruin everything, until your son pulls you into the garden and whispers, "Mom, I've known for weeks. I hired a private investigator. I have photos, hotel receipts, and something even worse. Today, in front of 200 guests, cameras, and both families, we don't just cancel the wedding. We burn their lives to the ground. Keep watching till the very last second, because the revenge at the reception was so brutal, people still talk about it years later." My name is Simone. I'm 48 years old, and for the last 25 years I thought I had the perfect marriage. My husband Franklin was the charming, handsome sales director that everyone adored. I was the quiet one who ran my small accounting firm from home, paid the bills, raised our only son Elijah, remembered every birthday, every dentist appointment, and kept the house running like clockwork. People used to say we were the couple everyone wanted to be. But behind closed doors things had started to change. Franklin became distant. He would suddenly stop talking when I walked into a room. His phone was always face down. If I asked what was wrong, he would flash that perfect smile and say, "Just work stress, honey. Big promotion coming." I believed him. After 25 years, you believe the person you sleep next to every night, right? Our son Elijah is 23, smart, kind, a little bit like me, a little bit like his dad. He met Madison 2 years ago. Madison Ellington, beautiful, ambitious architect from one of the wealthiest families in Atlanta. On paper she was a dream come true. Rich, educated, stunning. When they got engaged I cried happy tears. I spent an entire year planning the wedding of their dreams in our own backyard. I planted every single rose bush myself. I checked the fairy lights 3 times to make sure not one bulb was dead. White chairs in perfect rows, a flower arch Franklin built with his own hands. Everything had to be perfect for my boy. The night before the wedding I couldn't sleep. I was up at 5 a.m. sitting in my home office staring at numbers that didn't matter anymore. That's when Elijah walked in still wearing his pajamas, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. He sat on the edge of my desk and asked the question that turned my blood cold. "Mom, do you really think Madison loves me?" I laughed it off at first, told him every groom gets nervous. But then he said things that made my stomach drop. "Sometimes when she looks at me it's like I'm not even there. And lately she spends hours at the house when I'm not home, talking to Dad about investments and financial mentoring. She lights up the second his name appears on her phone." I wanted to tell him I had noticed the exact same things. How Franklin's eyes followed Madison around the room. How he always knew exactly how she liked her coffee, 2 sugars and just a splash of milk, without ever asking. But I couldn't say it out loud. Not on his wedding day. At exactly 10 a.m. Madison arrived in her white BMW saying she needed to discuss last-minute seating chart changes with Franklin. I told them I had a quick call with the caterer and slipped out the back door. I felt ridiculous, but something inside me screamed that I needed to see for myself. I crept around the house and hid behind the huge hydrangea bushes I had planted years ago. Through the big bay window I could see everything. Franklin poured her a drink. His hand slid down her back and rested way too low. She laughed and put her hand on his chest. Then they kissed. Not a quick friendly kiss. A deep, passionate, hungry kiss that lasted forever. The same man who hadn't touched me like that in years was devouring my son's fiancée in the same living room where we used to read bedtime stories to Elijah. I saw red. I was ready to kick the door down and scream until my lungs gave out. But before I could move, a hand clamped over my arm. I turned around and it was Elijah. His face was white as a ghost, but his eyes were burning with pure ice. He pulled me down into the dirt and whispered, "Mom, don't. Not yet. I already know everything, and it's so much worse than this." My heart stopped. We crouched there like criminals in our own garden while inside the house my husband started unbuttoning Madison's blouse on the same sofa where we took family Christmas photos every year. Elijah pulled out his phone with shaking hands and opened a folder. 17 different dates. Hotel entrances at the St. Regis downtown. Them leaving 2 hours later, clothes messy, hair wild. Secret dinners at restaurants Franklin never took me to. Photos of them holding hands in dark parking lots. Kissing against his car. My husband wasn't having a little fling. He was living a full second life with the woman who was supposed to become my daughter-in-law. I wanted to march in and end it right there. Elijah stopped me. If we do it now, they'll deny everything. Dad will say you're crazy. Madison will cry and play victim. We'll look like the villains. But today, 200 guests. Both families. Cameras. Phones. Social media. Today we don't just stop the wedding. We destroy them so completely they'll never recover. I looked at my sweet boy and didn't recognize him anymore. He was cold, calculated, ruthless, and honestly, I was proud. That night we locked ourselves in my office. Elijah introduced me to the private investigator he had hired weeks ago. Her name was Aisha, my own younger sister. I hadn't even told her my marriage was falling apart because I was too ashamed. Aisha didn't look shocked. She looked angry. She laid everything on the table. Hotel receipts paid in cash. Text messages. And then she dropped the real bomb. Simone, Madison isn't the first. For 15 years Franklin has been sending monthly payments to a woman named Nicole Jenkins. Nicole has a 15-year-old daughter named Zoe. No father listed on the birth certificate. I'd bet everything I own that Zoe is Franklin's daughter. 15 years. While I was scraping together money for Elijah's college, while I was working late nights balancing books, my husband was raising a secret second child. Every business trip, every late meeting, every unexplained expense suddenly made horrible sense. The next 24 hours were the best acting performance of my life. I smiled at relatives. I fixed Franklin's tie while imagining wrapping it around his neck. I watched Madison try on her veil and told her she looked beautiful while inside I was already burying her. Behind closed doors Elijah, Aisha and I built a file that could put people in prison. DNA samples were being rushed. Divorce papers were already drafted. Bank accounts were about to be frozen. And the pièce de résistance? A 15-minute slideshow synced to music that would play on the giant screen during the father of the groom speech. Every photo, every hotel receipt, every text, every bank transfer. And the final slide? A side-by-side photo of Franklin and 15-year-old Zoe, with the words, "Meet Franklin's real family." The wedding went ahead exactly as planned. Madison walked down the aisle in her $10,000 dress looking like an angel. Franklin stood there with fake tears in his eyes giving his proud father speech about love and commitment. The crowd clapped and cheered. They had no idea that in exactly 6 minutes their perfect little world was about to be nuked from orbit. When the lights dimmed for the surprise father-son video, our slideshow started instead. The first photo hit the screen. Gasps. Then screams. Then phones came out. By the time the secret daughter slide appeared you could hear people vomiting at their tables. Madison tried to run. Franklin stood frozen like a statue. Within minutes both families were shouting, cameras flashing, live streams going on Instagram and TikTok. Security had to escort them out while guests threw food and champagne glasses. By the end of the night the wedding was cancelled, reputations were ashes, lawsuits were filed, and Franklin lost his job, his friends, and every penny he ever made. Madison's family disowned her publicly. And me and Elijah? We walked out of that backyard holding hands, heads high, finally free. Some people call it cruel. I call it justice. Because when someone betrays you and your child at the same time, you don't just walk away. You make sure they never forget the day they picked the wrong family to destroy.